shouldn't we?
Oh, I've got 15 seconds on the clock. I'm going to click it.
Click it.
Click it.
Click it real good. Meow, 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 meow.
I think we're live. Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Let's just see if we're live on my screen.
Hopefully, I've got it muted on mine, so we're not going to get any feedback.
I've got us from going from. I've got 15 seconds, so I'm glad we didn't do anything unprofessional there.
Oh, there we are, dancing away.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. How are you doing?
Hello, everybody. Michael, how are you today?
We'll let a few more people join, but my day has been terrifying, I think the word is. So part of it is my fault. It's definitely user error. All of it is user error.
Oh, yes. I thought we were going to lead into this to make it a whole thing of it, not just have it as an anecdote at the beginning. But that's fine. That's fine. You do you, mate. You do you.
I don't know. I had, well, we'll go into more detail in a bit. So coming up in the show, we have Mikey's disastrous deleting most of his work throughout the week without realizing he's deleted it. And
then saving it.
It came in clutch, but...
No, I mean, now you saved it once it was deleted.
Yes, yeah, not great thing. But yes, I've got a few things. I'm actually going to report some of the things to Blender. I'm going to report it, I am. But yeah, I'll go into more detail in that in a moment.
I'm going to say hello to Slacks and Render and Rotaric and ow, Pointy Cat and Gerard and Melicon and Vertex and Todd and Render again.
If anybody thinks Jan's a little low in the mix, that's because he screamed earlier, so I turned him down.
I didn't scream. It was a manly battle cry.
He was being beaten up by one of his cats.
Hello, Jenny. And hello, Munzer. And hello, everybody. Terrifying as from terrific. Yes. Well, terrific as from terrifying, in fact. Yeah, Mikey gave me a message this morning. It's like, do you have a few minutes to chat? I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay, let me get some coffee. I'll do the same. Meet up. He's like, do you remember all those things I made? Yeah. Look.
They're not here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's barbaric Yorp.
Something along those lines. So yes, welcome everybody. We're going to have a bit of a Blender focus today. We've not had one of those for a while.
Yes.
And we might be a bit over the place. I also want to talk about later about something Jan and I were chatting about, whether it's cheating or whether it's just having fun with the game or whether it's just exploiting a flaw in the game's programming and how as programmers and game developers we can actually try and prevent that sort of thing from happening.
Down in front.
You've got a funny shaped moustache today.
Ow. Why?
Today will be the day.
Ow.
So. Oh dear. So yes, that is what's happening. If Jan yelps, he's being punctured.
Yes, it's randomized acupuncture, the new thing from the cat. Yeah, so we have that. We want to show you the current iteration of the prototype of Space Invadux.
Yep.
Of course, I've been recording, although I'm going back and redoing some of my recording because I realized I've put too much content in the early videos, which means that the first few videos where you really want to make sure that everyone's on track, I'm teaching about 5 or 6 things per video rather than one thing. So go back and redo those.
It's actually quite a common thing when we're recording. I've made a syllabus, followed along with the syllabus, and it turns out that you either get a bit too excited or you start expanding on something you're talking about, and you're like, why can't I get this video to around 10 minutes? It's got to be. Usually we aim for around the 10-minute mark, usually between 8 and 12, realistically. Apart from those times when it does take you a while, like in Blender, sometimes it just takes a while to model something. But then you go back to, why can't I narrow this down? And you realize, listening back to, you've probably gone over 3 topics instead of just the one. And
it's also, you've been in the weeds of the prototype and trying to sort of get it to the right stage. And okay, everything's ready. And you've gone over, in my case, your code, and in Mikey's case, your build and your everything else. You think, yep, okay, this is looking good enough to teach. And then you start teaching and you find yourself just hitting the highlights rather than teaching it. And it's interesting because we're very careful not to make what I would call recipe videos, right? Which is, hi guys, today I'm going to teach you how to use a navigation mesh in the auto task system. So here's my thing, and first thing I'm going to do is do this, 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 and this, and there we go. We have navigation. Thanks, like and subscribe. Which is great if you want to solve a single problem, but doesn't actually teach you the system.
Yeah.
So we want to sort of, we're very keen to keep our pedagogy down to. Someone yelled at me actually recently. Pedagogy is for teaching children. Andragogy, I believe, is for teaching adults. But I don't care. I'm going to call it pedagogy. So we like to keep our pedagogy
Why not?
quite solid.
Why not call it pedagogy? Why not?
There's one person who might be watching this is going to get very annoyed we just did that. But it's really down to making sure that there's actually a learning journey. So yeah, got to go back into that. But it's looking good. I'm really happy with how it's going so far.
I'm going to simulate how my file. No, I'm not. I'll jump into that in a moment. I don't want to accidentally. You know what I should do? I'm jumping all over the place because I'm nervous about editing this live. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make a copy.
Ooh.
So that even if I do decide to make a pig's ear out of it, it will still, in fact, work for me later.
Making a pig's ear out of it is a traditional, specifically Southern English phrase, I would think.
Maybe.
Is it from the north?
I don't know.
Anyway, it's a very English phrase. It means to make a mess of.
Yes.
Which is very unfair on pigs.
And also, I didn't use that type of language earlier on today. I used rather blue language instead.
Bada-bee-da-da-boo.
Something like that. Cool. So I think we should dive into this thing. So bear with me.
Pardon my French.
There we go.
And debacle.
Now I have not actually got this set up to have both of us on. I don't think.
I don't need to be on. I'll read the comments. It's your show.
Okay. I'll do that. No, that. I'll just share my screen. Jan will see that in a few moments as to what I actually just did. So I was real quick one on this. I was very busy just playing around with my scene, and I was working on wall pieces, and then I started working on a series of floor pieces, and there are lots of variations so that the dungeon floors look kind of awesome. And when I'm working on something like this, I tend to highlight the area that I'm working on and just go into local view. So that's the /. And I work like that and I move forward like that. At some point, I managed to get rid of this lot over here. So I'll just press the H key to demonstrate what had gone on. I'd gotten rid of all of this lot here, which were the new corridors I've been working on. And I think there's an important point here that when you're working on multiple assets in a scene, it can be dangerous that you can accidentally, in my case, have deleted stuff, not realize you've deleted it, and then later on when you come to edit it again or put it back together, it's gone and it's not part of your save. And usually I commit things as I go to a Git repository. And yes, I had just clicked save lots. And obviously, if you've saved something after you've deleted it, fortunately, an auto save saved my bacon. But
that was my idea. That was my idea. We didn't use Git this time, which is good because every time I get involved with Git, we use everything and have to start from scratch.
I'll go through that in a moment because actually recovering stuff is how I lost something else, and I'll show you why in a second. I did want to go through the process of so I made a series of objects here to mimic archways, and from that I actually reworked everything so it actually fits in discrete units much better than before. So if we have a look at how this is designed, it's actually only a tiny piece here that's then repeated over and over again. But I wasn't quite happy with how that was actually laid out, so I went back and redid it. And if I have a look at just this area here, you'll see that I'm only working on almost like a quarter of the model. Now, I didn't get to that point straight away. I had to make the full physical model before mirroring it and everything. But then when I got to this, it meant that I could create this piece arching over this way. And then if we come back out again, we've got another piece in the background that actually just does the opposite.
Yep. quickly from the comments. Hello, Diedrich. Vertex is modular dungeon smiley face. Yes, I mean the idea is to make this into a modular dungeon, partly for the assets pack, partly for the course on how to make a modular dungeon,
Yep.
and partly for the first Godot part of the action RPG courses on creating a procedure generated
I'll get the right one in a second.
level.
Yes,
Really,
yes. One of the things that's it's important to run through. Obviously, I can't take people on a journey where we go backwards and forwards and lose our work, and so I'm going through the whole process of making a large collection so that I can come up with a workflow that works when you're working with large collections of objects. One of the things that I've realized at this point is the fragility of having everything in one particular blend file. So perhaps I
yeah,
should have had all the
yeah.
walls in one, all the floors in another, and then used Blender's asset pack or asset library to actually put everything together for the
I
asset
didn't even
pack
know that was a
itself.
thing.
Yes, it is.
Huh.
But then it makes the quickness of having everything together in one scene and grabbing a bit from over there and then putting it together. It actually makes that bit a lot more challenging to do. But after I'd managed to go through everything here, let's come out of local view again. The great thing about this is when it came to making this corridor area here, I simply went to, and this is modular in its design. I just simply added the number of units I needed to get all the way over. Excellent. And then I did the same down here. And that sort of thing makes it so much easier to put different varieties together. Because this outside corner wall, for the corridors, by the way, this is actually a corridor piece rather than an edge piece on the wall. But there's no reason why I couldn't grab. Let's do something live here. Never goes wrong when I do something live. Actually, let's grab this piece first. Move it across. I've not got
While
snapping
you're
turned
doing
on.
that, we have a question from Vertex. How many modules in total are you planning to make?
Yes.
Yeah, we do actually have this on a document somewhere, but we've been so in the weeds with various courses for the past month that I actually can't remember what it says. Lots.
Yes, lots is the short
So
answer there.
the idea is to make a bunch of them. A fair amount will be available just as part of the course, and then for those of you who want extra assets, and it's you want more to build on all the rest of it, or you want
Yeah.
to use them in other games, there'll be an asset pack that you could get separately, either with the course or instead of. And I should point out that if you are a lifetime member, you don't have to buy the asset pack that's included.
But as a demonstration here, you can see I've managed to fill up an entire wall at this point. Oh, these are iterated, not quite the right length, this back piece, but you get the point here. This is very easy to expand and make a wall of any length out of the same piece. So not only are we talking about making modular assets for, let's do both of us, making modular assets just for the course itself so bits fit together, but also modular assets in thinking about modularity when you're designing them. A lot of architecture and things like that is repetitive. And what you can then do is go in afterwards and then do things like, well, this is the wrong length. So you could, let's just convert it to a mesh.
Ow.
And then you can go and grab it and pull it back a little, for instance, and make it the right length. And you'll notice something else is going on here because I'm using shared data. I'm not breaking my current project, which is good. But the other thing is here, once you've got something of the right length, having all of these faces is not going to be optimal. So I wouldn't go through, especially early on, and do a lot of optimization. But low-hanging fruit like this, where actually that could just be one big face, you could come in and dissolve the faces, he says. That didn't work. Interesting. Let's dissolve edges instead. Why is it not working? I'm doing it live.
That's why.
These are quite possibly just separate objects. So I'm going to merge by distance and then let's dissolve faces. There we go. So one large face. And very importantly, I've not got it turned on at the moment. I've actually got a matte cap on at the moment. So I'll just put this back to studio, make things a bit brighter for everyone. One of the things to check here that I often forget is under the overlays, we've got face orientation. So it's entirely possible that during the making of something, you end up with something red facing forward. That actually happened quite a bit early on. Hopefully there isn't anything in here now that makes that mistake. No, doesn't look like it. Excellent. And you can probably see here that this doorway isn't finished yet. And that's because the doors themselves will be different objects that will go in that space. And there's also a plan to have square doors as well as the large arches as well, and possibly some other style doors. But for the moment, it's all about focusing on the bare minimum models. If I hop over here, that's very brightly coloured. I'm just going to unhide everything in the scene. He says, I've got this turned on. Is that the
And
reason
hard
why?
ops is just generally fun. I like hard ops a lot, Vertex.
Hard ops is something that I would recommend. It's a brilliant add-on. However,
Yep.
I don't use it an awful lot because of the teaching required. One of the
Right,
things
and it's
we
also
want with our courses is to make sure that you don't have to go and buy another bit. I'm in the works in the background at some point. I'd love to do some courses on uh, well-known paid add-ons, things like Hard Ops and Box Cutter, etc. Some of which I think there's a free version of Hard Ops. Is it? I'm not sure. But anyway,
I don't know.
if there is a free version, then that kind of blows some of my thing out of the water. But it's difficult because we don't want the barrier of entry to be too high for beginners.
Yep.
But certainly having something like Hard Ops and Box Cutter can dramatically increase your speed and your
Well, there's also
efficiency.
like, if you're going to be teaching a plugin, I think you should teach the plugin.
Hmm.
Whereas if you're going to be teaching a course on something else, unless the plugin is absolutely required for that to work, I think it's out of scope. And
Oh
I
yeah,
almost, because I found a replacement for the palette editor for Godot that I
right.
used to use in Godot 3. I found it in Godot 4. So I fired it up and I was about to put it in the course. And I thought, I'll just check this.
Yeah.
Can't get it working.
Oh dear.
There's, I don't know if it's because it was written in Windows and I'm running it on Linux. And the path to the scripts folder doesn't work because scripts is lowercase s in the path, but uppercase in the script. And I know that Windows has a habit of ignoring that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just the beta used to accept that and the live doesn't. I don't know what's happened.
Oh,
But yeah.
you've just reminded me about something when it comes to the Python course that's in editing at the moment. So
Oh,
there's a beginner Python course coming through the pipeline at the moment. They I made the executive decision at that point in time to not use an external IDE. The number of times that, as you pointed out, the path is incorrect. The number of times that I've come across people having issues with their Python installation on their system, especially on Windows. Fortunately, with Mac and Linux, it tends to be already installed and operational, but that's not the case on a fresh installation of Windows. But the last thing I want to be instructing people to do is changing their path variables and causing them to have an unstable system or for something else
hmm.
to break. Because if you're not in a position where you can fix those sorts of things, then you're square out of luck. You can pretty much ruin your installation of Windows if you play around with the path too much. Um, Especially as a beginner. What does this do? Bob, gone. So
Yep.
yes. Uh,
I don't know Measure Machine. I have to check that out, Vertex.
Yeah. So what I'm doing
Um,
with the Python course is we're just going into Blender and using the stuff in Blender, and I think that's also a good way of approaching it from a beginner's perspective because that's one of the easiest places you can search the BPY module, the Blender Python module itself, because it comes up without having to install anything else. It's fantastic.
but it is one of those interesting things. Like, there's an add-on that would make this simpler. Do I teach with it? Like at some
Yes.
point, I know at some point in the action RPG thing, I will be looking at some add-ons,
Hmm.
but the add-ons I want to use aren't finished for Godot 4. Like they're in, like
Yeah.
Scatter is in development for 4, but it's not yet on the asset library. So good thing I'm not doing the overworld yet.
But that's one of the things you could, in theory, place all these things by hand.
Speaking of, by the way, did you made a test scene in Godot with these assets?
And then I
You weren't going to
restarted my
show that, were you?
computer. I can show it.
I mean, you could send them to me and I could show it, but it's going to take a while.
um, I before we move out of Blender stuff, let's stay focused on that for the moment, and then I'll see whether Godot opens
Okay.
up. And it was just a quick test. I had a bit of a field day with Godot earlier. I wasn't in the right frame of mind after deleting half my work.
It
It happens.
does.
So So there are other pieces as well. I've been experimenting with different wall and rock designs, and also ways of creating it. That is one of those things. It's like, well, do I place the bricks individually and rotate them around, or do a random operation, which sometimes can get you most of the way there? And to answer, was it Vertex's question earlier about how many ones we're going
Yep.
to add? One of my goals, I'm not sure yet. This is just a random section. I'm not sure whether I'm going to include this in the course. So star asterisk there. This bit might not be in the course. It might actually balloon the course beyond its scope. But here is, sadly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's 100 unique broken tile pieces. Obviously, the other size ones
Why
aren't
did you
done yet.
break them, Mikey?
Well. But one of the things I'll explore is certainly different wear levels on our floors as well, so that they're not all absolutely perfect. Now, it's quite
Sure.
likely that because of the extra work required to make a pack like this, that this will be part of the pay pack, but this one will be, obviously it won't look like that. They're just tiles I could pick up and move. But you'll get ones like this in the pack, and maybe a few broken tiles and things like that to scatter around. But one of the things I'm experimenting with in the background at the moment is using geometry nodes to assemble this, so that you can pretty much go click, 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 and have like 50 different room tiles if you wanted. So each one of those was unique. Obviously, things like that create a very bloated asset pack with very little differences. So that might be something I want to teach it, but I'm not sure how it fits in the scope of things. Because the moment you add something extra on top of everything else we're doing so far, you very quickly end up with a very, very big course when it was supposed to be a really focused, narrow course on just the asset creation. Yes, baking is something I am going to be looking at. Those viewers that watched stream 2-3 weeks ago, I think, maybe even a month ago, we talked about using, was it Material Maker again?
Yep.
Yep. We discussed the option of using Material Maker. I've played with it. I think it's an absolutely wonderful tool, but using it doesn't fit our aesthetic. So one of the things I'm going to have a look at is the option of baking these as both obviously a normal map, which you can kind of do very quickly by switching your map cap to this, looking at the top and taking a picture, taking a render like that, and you've got them. But one of the things I wanted to look at is also exporting a height map, as well as
Yep.
ambient occlusion and all the other things, because we tried in Godot 4, and you can actually have a bit of parallax there as well. I'm not sure how that's going to look on the floor. If it looks good, we'll go through the baking process. And personally, I think that's going to be more valuable than diving back into geometry nodes. So
Yeah.
that's probably the way I'm leaning at the moment. So lots of pieces in the works, and this is like a behind the scenes what a file actually looks like when I'm being messy. When I start going through the process of tidying up and automating things, you'll see that these ones here I have started with naming. So all of these have the designation floor tiles. They're all in a collection called floor tiles, so they're easy to get to turn on and off, to work with, to delete if necessary. So one of the things that I wanted to show everybody was, if you, I don't know whether the YouTube compression is even going to show the little asterisk. So when you've modified a file, you get an asterisk up there. You save it, it disappears. You make a change, whether it's deleting something, the asterisk appears. So most of the time, if I went to go close this down, it'll say, "Oh, do you want to save changes?" Okay. And now I have warned people in the past, when exporting, if you're exporting over the top of something that you've already got before, when you click export, it won't warn you that that file already exists. It will just overwrite it. That's not fun at all. But it also turns out that exists in other places as well. So let's say I accidentally deleted half my stuff, which I did. I didn't knowingly do it, but I did it. I pretty much ended up with a three planes down here and all my floor tiles. It's like, where's all the other stuff I've been working on? But if you go up here and you like recover, and you go, "Oh, I recover the last session," it says, "Do you want to save?" Great. But if you go to recover an autosave and you open up something else, it doesn't ask you to save. Boom, I just lost what I was working on.
Boom.
And this is our original asset packs, which is where everything's being derived from.
Yep.
So you can already see there's already a vast number of pieces more than we had before. I haven't started working on all of the detailed, intricate bits just at the moment. Getting Jan the base pieces so he can build up rooms was more.
Well, I need props to build up rooms as well.
Yeah. But being able to do the maze generation that we're doing requires.
Roderick wants to know: are you sure it's a copy?
Yes. Look, there's two. How can I get it wrong? They're both named the same thing. And that one's in the right place. That one's there
Why
in
didn't
the
you
right
call
place.
one stream copy or something?
Because I like confusing myself. I'll see it like later and then open up that one and start working on it.
Deirdre says, "I feel your pain, Mikey. I've rage quit over less." I mean, same.
How would you said I was this morning, Jan, when I called?
You look like you're in the final stages of grief.
I'd certainly
just about to hit acceptance.
It was really weird, right? So I'm not one to typically get angry, and I can get emotive and excited about things or passionate, but I very rarely get angry about anything. And I wasn't angry at all. It was a really weird feeling. It wasn't apathy either. I think acceptance is the perfect word. I was like,
resignation.
That is where I am right now. There's nothing I can do about it. And just as Jan said,
if the wall piece is 2x2, I don't think it is. I think it's
20 by
20
7.
by 6. Yeah.
So that's one of the other things. So let's go back to the one that I was playing around with. Here we go. Aha! You see, because it didn't save it, I didn't lose all those pieces that I deleted. So yeah, so this is one of the ways that you can approach modeling in general. So I could have this door piece in the middle. So it's a 20 by 20 meter piece. I could have this door piece be maybe 4 meters across with detailing. And then I could, if the pattern is regular enough, I could actually split this up into 2 meter sections and then just repeat those over and over again. And that works really well for surfaces that are similar. In my particular case, I've decided to, and for what we're doing, I've decided to approach it at whole room scale because those are the modular pieces that Jan is going to be using in the course, rather than having individual modular pieces. But with all the asset packs, you will have access to the blend file as well, so you can pick it up and modify it how you like, which is really important for, as I say, for things like this. If you wanted it to be not as long, you can come in and adjust it. Or you can use these pieces in geometry nodes and have magical fancy procedural generation within Blender.
Yeah, or you could accidentally delete half of them and have to re-download it.
I was very, very lucky. I went. So Jan and I were talking earlier. So I realized that I was just adjusting stuff on screen without anybody seeing. This is what I mean. Hey, it can be hundreds of miles long. Off it goes. Whee! But anyway, what I ended up doing was going to recover and go into the autosaves, and one of these random ones with numbers on it happened to be what I was looking for. Unfortunately, you can all... I mean, this doesn't help turning on this view because these are all of the camera in a different position. So that was no good for me to try and work out which one it was. I had to go through each one, and every one I was going through was either really, really old or just didn't have the stuff I wanted in it. But fortunately, literally the last one I tried, it was like, it's here.
Yep. Just as I was asking him, I don't suppose the autosave feature caught it.
One thing I do want to show before we move on to Invodux is the following. Just let me move Blender around a little. Doo-doo. So I'm just trying to fit this all on one screen. It's a bit challenging. So one of the things that Blender does do that you may or may not know is, let's say I wanted this wall piece here. I can simply copy it from one Blender file and paste it in the other. Very, very quick and easy to do.
I didn't know you could do that.
But man, it saves a lot of time when you're trying to recover half data from one place and move it over to the other. But yeah, that's my tip of the day. I should make that into a YouTube short.
You should.
It'd be like 3 seconds long.
I don't know. I'm very grumpy old man. Get off my lawn about this YouTube short business. I mean, Twitter was bad enough, and Snapchat just left me feeling very old and confused. Like this is software designed for people to make bad decisions.
Yeah,
But like, I don't want 3-second YouTube ones. I want 3-hour video essays about Deus Ex and how it's fine. Actual thing. H. Palmer guy, quite good.
it is very good. Good in-depth discussion on
Long.
one of the best games I think in gaming history.
Well, the original is amazing. In fact, there's a meme apparently every time you mention the original Deus Ex, somebody who's listening to you goes to install it.
I'm just going on to
Speaking
my GOG Galaxy account now, and I'll download it. There we go.
Speaking of installing things, Mikey, would you like to show off the prototype for Space Invaders as it is now?
Before I do
making
that,
this available for you guys to play soon. But I wanted to make it look a bit more visually interesting. I figured if we're going to be learning how to use this stuff, let's actually make a game you want to play.
before we do that, I'm going to launch Steam, and I'm going to launch Godot 4, and just show everybody the mess I made of these assets in Godot 4. So what I did was I exported just the section that I've been working on, the corridor section, and I joined it all as one object just to see if there's any performance difference. I couldn't really see any performance difference. Doesn't mean that there wasn't one. You'd have to look at the profiler to work out whether or not that made any sense. And software, here we go. Just waiting for Godot to launch. Okay,
I do like that I'm now at the stage where I can be grumpy old man about technology.
Yeah.
And unlike my parents' generation, I can say, no, I understand how the tech works. I just don't know why.
So one of the things that Jan told me earlier on, is it this little sun icon that I want?
I don't know. I am like 45 seconds behind you. I can't see
the icon that turns on and off the work.
No, I know the one you mean, but I can't tell if that's the one.
Ah, okay.
Press it and find out.
It just says turn off the sun.
Press it.
Do those look similar? They look a bit similar now. I love that. So yes, I was just playing around, obviously not with the torch assets or anything, just to see how it would look, and I turned on all the fog stuff and everything. Yeah, and it's coming out pretty well. One of the things that Jan and I discovered a few months back now was the fact that all of your assets need to be unwrapped in order for the lighting engine to calculate lighting.
This wasn't the case beforehand. I can see it now.
Awesome. So yeah, there is a
this is not like set up fully. This is just Mikey to see how his assets looking in Godot.
Yes.
And yeah.
I did have fun when I tried to import the GLB. I got an error message coming up about I need the FBX to GLB. It was very confusing because I wasn't converting FBX to GLB, but it turns out you do need that, and it says click here and it doesn't look like a button, and I know they're still improving the UI things. I'm like, it says click here, but there's no button. Where do I click? And it's actually the text that you click on. It's a relatively straightforward fix. But when you're like, oh, I've lost all my ass and all that lot, still in that, like, oh, but yeah, it looks really nice bringing it in, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Yang can do with it in Godot itself with all of the rest of the special lighting and everything.
We'll have some fun. I'm also going to put a ceiling on it, but my ceiling is literally just going to be a black plane so that the light can bounce off something.
Just put a black.
It doesn't
plane.
need a texture. It just needs something for the light to bounce off.
Yes, that's one of the things that I didn't bother doing. I just let the sun bounce in. It looked pretty.
Yep. Space Invaders.
I'm going to turn this on, and then I won't be able to hear anything for a moment. So let me turn that down.
So if you've got things to say about Mikey, now's the time.
Well, I was too quick, and that's typing. I can see what they're typing. Right. So I'm just gonna change something over, and a note to the editor. Jan will now be muted, but I want the audio from the game to come through. So hopefully you can hear the music, but I can't turn it down that much, and we can hear Jan as well. They're just on the same track. Oh, yeah, I need to do this for people to see. This is surprisingly addictive. And I'm not going to do that because the music is still very loud and I couldn't hear Jan. Oh, and I want people to hear the pig.
Oink.
Are you still there, Jan? Oh, where'd Jan go?
I'm here.
Oh, you are there. I thought I'd lost you then. Don't do that to
No, I
me.
muted it, so I wasn't ringing away.
Well, so it's surprising how this is going to sound like a being rude to Jan, but yes, this is an incredibly addictive game, and the assets have worked out really, really well. I love the theme. Can't get the pig, get the pig, get the pig.
Oink.
Oink. That's one of the reasons I've turned the music off. I want to hear Jan go oink.
Oink.
Some sort of weird fetish. Uh-oh. Oh, do I get that 1,000 points? Oh, no. Right, come on, come on, come on. No! No!
So there's some fun things going on there. Am I unmuted?
No, you're not muted.
So am I unmuted? No, you're not muted. Thank you, Mikey.
There's
There's some fun things going on there. There's
Robots.
a directional light coming from the moon, which is casting shadows on the blocks. So as you destroy them, the shadows go away. There's lighting and particles on the eggs and on the missiles. The eye on the moon follows Mikey around as he moves, which I thought would be really cute, but it turns out it's really creepy.
Just a bit.
Which is why I'm officially announcing the name of that moon character is Uncanny Valerie.
Anyway.
I'm still playing with ideas for the pig. Percy is fine, but as Jenny found out, there is actually an awful lot of merchandise around a Percy the pig, and I don't really want to deal with that.
Yeah,
so
we don't want to step on people's trademarks. One of the things, of course, that's going to be a challenge with this.
Francis Bacon.
I like it. This section is going to be jam packed with information. Because as Jan said there, we've got particles, obviously a control system and everything else, lighting, shadows, getting the eye to follow the character.
To follow instancing with an instancing. So teaching best practices of, okay, I've made a block. Now I want to make a barrier, which is going to be a series of blocks. Each one of those blocks is its own scene within that scene, and then have multiple copies of that within the scene. Why we want to do it that way, what the advantages are.
Yep.
Physics bodies,
specifically
character bodies, and areas, because we have static bodies in the character body. We have walls and the floor and the ceiling, and we have we don't have the ceiling, and we have the penguin, but the actual projectiles and the ducks are all areas.
He's a French pig, is he?
Hmm?
He's a French pig.
Francis Bacon. He was named after the. Never mind.
I am a Luddite, Jan.
Oh. We have so many of these conversations. Okay. So somebody is working on a better version of these bunnies for us. Mikey, can I send you the current version of Annie Bunny via Discord, and you can share it?
I can try. Yeah.
Okay. So Jenny, not Jenny currently in the track, is working on these for us and is actually doing an amazing job. And I'm just going to scroll and find the stupid picture. 1 second. I wasn't planning to talk about this, but I thought it was hilariously funny, and I told Mikey the joke. He's like, I don't get it. Who's that? But here we go. Come on, Annie. There you are. Okay. Copy picture. Paste picture. There you go, Mikey.
Opening browser. Must not close this browser window down, otherwise I disappear. Right. I'm going to zoom out as well because pixel art doesn't look so great when you're zoomed all the way in.
Okay. Francis Bacon, first Viscount of Alban, January 1561 to April 1626. I mean, come on. Play right. Tommy Trotter is also.
So I've got the bunny on screen at the moment. It's a pirate bunny.
It's Anne Bunny. I said that to Mikey, and he went, "Okay, who's that?"
So who is that, Jan? Oh, no. See if the chat know.
Okay, chat.
We're going to test my ignorance through
Chat.
popular
Who
votes.
is Anne Bunny? Wait 40 seconds to think.
Yep. So you come up with all these obscure characters from history.
I like history.
I know,
I've just
right?
finished listening to the audiobook The Republic of Pirates, which is an amazing book.
So fresh in your head as well.
I mean, I know who Anne Bunny is. Any takers on Anne Bunny?
Yeah. But there have been
Okay,
seven.
really just asked it on thing. Just a long gap.
Okay.
Bugs' girlfriend, says Todd. I mean, sure. Trotterick, pretty good. Wife, maybe. All right. Anne Bunny was a pirate from the golden age of piracy, based out of Nassau. She was married and arrived on the island and was, and I quote, a libertine who liked to sleep with everybody. And her husband was very upset about this. She didn't want to be with her husband, so she decided to run off with another man. Then she decided she didn't want him and became a pirate in her own right with her own crew and was like really feared. Like people just did not know what to make of Anne Bunny. But yeah, Anne Bunny was active towards the end of the golden age of piracy. So the last sort of 4 years of that 10-year period.
The golden age.
Right around the age of the time of Blackbeard's death.
So I think I'm absolved.
Gerard got it.
My learned friend.
Yes, you're right, Deirdre. It is Anglo-centric, but unfortunately, most of my education is going to be okay. I know Francis Bacon because I'm a theatre history nerd because I used to be a professor of theatre history. Like I would very much have liked to go on with Racine, but there's no way of using that in or Voltaire or any of the other great playwrights, but it wouldn't have worked.
Well, we had an interesting discussion about Godot the other day, where I was like, so obviously it was the 50s, it was a play, wasn't it, in the 50s, Waiting for Godot.
Waiting for Godot, Samuel Beckett.
And obviously the whole thing is the game engine you've been waiting for. I get it, but I wonder how many people, especially of the younger generation, so sort of like in their 20s now, and younger, will even recognize it as a reference.
I mean, it's one of those things that it's easy for me to forget that theatre history and theatre education is not available in most curriculums. I mean, I grew up backstage. Both my parents worked in theatre, and I was lucky enough to, in our English program, we covered a lot of classic plays in middle school and high school. It actually doesn't occur to me unless someone points it out that people may not have heard of this. Waiting for Godot was a great play. I mean, I really like it. The reviewers weren't so kind. A play in which nothing happens twice.
That was the point of the play, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great piece of absurdism. All right, how are we doing for 7:43?
Yeah,
Mikey, you wanted to talk about another topic, and also, Mikey, what have you been playing this week? Last of Us. It's always The Last of Us.
So yes, it is. So I've been playing The Last of Us on a permadeath setting because I like torturing myself.
Is that the one where if you lose, you take a hammer to your monitor?
No, that's just rage quitting. So there are a couple of options with the permadeath. If you die, you go right back to the very beginning. So it's like classic arcade games in that respect. But you can do it per chapter, per something, or for the whole game. I'm like, I'm going to do per chapter, because if I get like 40 hours in and I die because, I don't know, a child walks in and goes, Daddy, and I'm like, oh, I've got to pause the game. Yeah, if you quit the game whilst you're in a dangerous position, you also just die.
Yep.
That includes, I think, the console going off, but I'm not sure. But that is what I've been playing, and I was playing not Valheim this week. I've forgotten what it was called. It's a shooter. It's Splitgate.
Minecraft.
Splitgate.
That's what I said.
Splitgate, if you've not heard of it, is a first-person shooter. It's an arena shooter, and you can put portals around, and you can see through your portal. So you can put a portal all the way up there, a portal there, and you can snipe across the map. What I didn't realize, and what I was taught whilst I was playing, was when you're behind a portal, the other side that anybody can see glows. And when you're not there, it doesn't. So people know if you stood behind the portal. I'm like, how do you keep killing me? How do you know I'm there? Big brain. But yes, so one of the things that I did over the weekend was I played with my my youngest. He's 8, and he was playing Roblox. Not my favorite of games or companies, but he enjoys it. We don't spend money on the Robux or whatever it's called. And he was playing this rhythm game. So if you've ever played DDR or Dance Dance Revolution, where the arrows come up on the screen and you put your feet in the right places, this was the same sort of mini game, but you were using the keyboard. And he said, "Daddy, shall we play together?" Yes. So we sat down. Good father-son gaming time. I was really enjoying it to begin with. So we start playing, and he introduces me to a beginner song. It was still quite quick, but I aced him. And I was like, I feel a bit bad. Next one was a bit more difficult. Aced him again.
Didn't feel that bad.
Didn't feel that bad, no. But I realised on the third go something was up because he completely trounced me. And it was more and more difficult each time. And we played about 5 or 6 rounds of this, getting increasingly more and more difficult. And I was like, is he just like really, because he started learning drumming and things like that, and I'm like, okay, rhythm wise he might be really, really good, and he might be just doing those micro movements with his fingers, and being a small child, you can do things really quickly, quicker than us slow adults can. But then I realized what he was actually doing, and the reason why I beat him early on was because the slower songs I could be really accurate and precise with, and he couldn't. But when it got really quick, he was just mashing the keys. And the game is forgiving enough that it's got if you're precise, it says epic and then good and then bad, or okay and then bad.
I was going to say Epic and Valve and Ubisoft.
And so it occurred to me, and I was just like, oh, he's winning because of a mechanic in the game that allows you to mash the keys and it not recognize it as a failure. Now, I don't know at this point in time whether or not that was a scoring thing, because if you make a mistake, you do, and it's bad or wrong, you actually get points taken off. But otherwise, you always gain points. So if it's fast enough, you can just mash. And then I tried it. I just mashed, and I didn't quite keep up with him, but I mashed and got a much higher score than I could have done previously. And I found that weird. I'm like, this is a rhythm game. The whole point of it is to be precise. Yet it allows you, by the way that it's coded, or perhaps just because of the Roblox engine, who knows, to enable that type of exploit.
Yeah, now I can see a couple of ways that you could code that would introduce that bug. I mean, the easiest one would just use an if-else if and check if you've hit the right button first, and if you have, just not do the rest of it. So if you're hitting the right button, don't worry if you're hitting the wrong button too, which is the reverse of what you want. But then Mikey asked me an interesting question. He said, was he cheating?
And cheating...
Now, my contention is no.
Yeah.
Because he didn't know he was cheating. Like, this is a young child.
It's intense,
This is a technique that works. And then when you pointed it out to him, he stopped doing it.
Yes. He actually turned to me later on in the day and said, "Daddy, I'm trying it without mashing the keys," or words to that effect. And I was like, oh, cool.
Right. So... I think cheating has to have an intent. Like, you have to want to break a rule.
But we've probably all done it. I remember this was years ago in Counter-Strike, where you could, if 3 of you got together, you could jump on everybody, jump on a crate, and then jump above the map. And you were beyond a viewpoint of anybody, but you could see through walls and stuff.
See, that's cheating.
Is it, though? Because it's part of the game. Anybody can do it. As long as you start at this point.
that was not my argument. My argument was he didn't know he was breaking a rule. You knew you were breaking a rule.
Oh, no. This is perfectly permissible.
I'm doing it, so it's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do.
This is the literal word meaning of the word privilege. Private legislation, private law.
Yes.
It's fine when I do it. It's against the law when you do it.
You see that it's a weird it's a weird conundrum, because obviously exploiting something that anybody can exploit can be seen as cheating, and it obviously can undermine the spirit of the game. I think that's probably where it gets a bit iffy. I mean, if you're just having fun and one of you's running around on the ceiling, that's fun maybe the first
Right.
one or two times, but it gets.
I mean, a goofy glitch that everyone can laugh at is not the same as
Yeah.
cheating. But I mean, I tend not to enjoy the competitive gamer scene anyway. Like I just don't enjoy that kind of game. I certainly don't enjoy the sort of mentality that comes around from, well, I have to crush you. I just want to have fun with my friends. I don't really care who wins, which explains a lot of my gameplay. Actually, I say that. I tend to be a lot more focused on, no, this is the objective, Michael. You're like, look!
Look at what I'm doing! Whee!
I played a really interesting game, and I'd kind of like to play it with the community. Like one of us play and have the community play with us.
Yeah.
Game on Steam released recently called King of the Castle, which is a social storytelling game, which reminds me of the board game King's Dilemma. So King of the Castle, one of you, the host, is the monarch. And the monarch is going to pick an ambition. It might be to be remembered for all time, or to leave the place secure, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Right? Leave the place rich, or and to have an heir. Everyone else is a noble, and they are watching the screen of the person playing. You can play this on Twitch or just through a web app. And they're split into one of three factions. And you can change what the factions are during the game. And the factions are going to pick their victory condition by voting. Right. And every time the king tries to enact a law, all the nobles are going to vote. Now, the king might get some ways of trying to get them to vote certain ways. And every now and again, the monarch can veto one of the choices. The great example is one of the first choices you get, you have to plan your coronation. But the nobles get to plan your coronation. And one of the choices that was available in my playthrough was throw the king in the river. Like, yeah, I'm vetoing that one.
That sounds very interesting. So the actual nobles and people watching basically control you.
Well, they influence, and they're also competing against each other. When one faction gets too strong, the other two should step in.
Sorry, did I say control? I meant control you.
Oh. Yes, they can troll you. I was forced to go on a date with a fishman from a neighboring kingdom. And then they were trying to get me to get an illegitimate heir with him, and I managed to weasel out of it like a weasel. But they thought that was hilariously funny. The game had us in hysterics a lot of the time, and not least of which because most of the nobles that are in the game are the players. Like, it takes one of their names and gives them an avatar.
That's a very interesting game mechanic.
So, and if you own the game, you'll appear more often, and you can customize your avatar. But we were playing with someone called Jenny, not Jenny in the chat, different Jenny. And her character came up and said that she was very concerned about the backlog of prisoners we have waiting to be executed. So they've invented this new machine, a big block of wood with a metal thing for merciful killing. We've called it the Jenny. And it was just, I mean, the whole like debate about what we're going to do with this machine. And I ended up being outvoted and had to spend half the treasury on this thing. She made a fortune. So I'd kind of like to play that because it's a very fun, silly community game.
So how does it integrate with chat then?
Okay, so there's two ways. If you're playing the Twitch way, it has a Twitch extension.
Okay.
And they can do, I think it's ! vote A or whatever they want. If you're playing the party mode, you can have up to 24 people rather than 300. They have to be able to see your screen, and they vote via a web app.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So yeah, it's entertaining, and it's the art style is great, and I'd kind of like to play it. Like it's a cute little thing.
Plus, it's called "I'm the King of the Castle."
No, it's not. It's called King of the Castle.
I'm the King of the Castle.
It's not what it's called, Michael.
You're a dirty rascal.
Plus, you
Fine.
know, it was £4 or $5. So
Yeah, it's not bad.
right.
Especially if you're getting some fun out of it.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm going to say we're coming up to the hour. Oh, I saw me. I'm here by myself. So I can see Roderick. Hi. Is Jan going to rejoin? Is Jan going to rejoin? Hi. So I don't know what happened there. It turned out that I looked over my shoulder and the router had decided to restart for some reason. So I reckon it decided to update, which it happens. So Jan's not here at the moment. He may join back in. I'm not sure. He probably has scampered off to go have his dinner. But thank you everybody for joining us this week, and thank you for staying on for this sign off. I suppose. Did anybody have any questions whilst I'm still around? Hopefully, I'll be able to answer anything. I won't stay around for too long, and the internet might cut me off again. Who knows? But I am back for the moment. So if you've got any questions, do ask away, and I will just see if Jan is able to pop back again. He might not, of course. So I've pinged a message off to Jan. Do a behind the scenes. Ooh, what behind the scenes do you want to see? I mean, kind of is a behind the scenes every week, really, isn't it? It's just one of those things. Yeah, I honestly don't know what happened with the internet. I'm just having a quick system log look if it tells me anything. All I know is I turned around and my router had restarted, which is obviously no good during a stream. I'll have to have a look and see. Oh, I can save that and then search it. There we go. Awesome. So yes, if there's anything else that you want to see, let us know. Otherwise, I'm going to jet off. What's your setup look like? How do I do that easily? So I've got a mess on my desk. I can't pick up this camera. It's not a web camera. It's actually attached to an arm. So just picking it up would be, I'll just do that for the moment. Over here, I have that big tool IKEA unit thingy. I actually got that for my 3D printer, which is still in a box after moving, but it's supposed to be on that top shelf. It's not at the moment, but I will have my 3D printer there at some point. How many monitors do I use? Does it have to be connected to the same computer? Because there's a monitor just there. My laptop usually sits on that stand there, but I've got another laptop over there that the editor uses with another monitor. So at the moment, Roderick, I have two 16:9 monitors in front of me, just here. And then I also have a display tablet down below. I don't use that all the time, but if I'm doing anything in Blender that requires a display tablet with the good old stylus, one of these guys, I can draw on that and I can actually see the screen as well. It's going to come in a lot of use when I do the sculpting part of the Blender Creative Series. The other thing that I've only got 4 outputs from my graphics card, and obviously that's 3 of them. The last one actually goes back into the computer so that when I'm recording my screen capture, it is exactly what I see. I've had no end of issues with OBS not displaying like a cursor, or when I was using Camtasia with certain software, the cursor would again disappear. It always seems to be like the cursor, it's like an overlay within Windows or however it's working. And so, yeah, I've only got those 4 outputs. I have got another graphics card in my computer with the intent of setting up another monitor, but I think one broke in the house, so I had to move it over the other side. But I would my preference is 3 monitors, especially when doing recording work or anything along those lines. I use OBS to stream, to record, and everything along those lines. And one of you can bring a mirror. Actually, I have got a mirror, but it might fall apart. Hold on a second. This might not work at all, but I'm up for a laugh. Now, oh, I need to put this back on. This is going to go horribly wrong. Right, pop these back on. Why do I need to put these on? Jan's not around. I'm just listening to myself. And yes, this is falling to pieces. That bit is just fallen off, and it's weighted so it flips the other way. So, how's this going to work? There we go. That doesn't really work. Hey, it's my face. So yeah, there's one monitor. Ow. There's another. There's you guys chatting. That doesn't really work. I need a bigger mirror. More mirrors. But yes, I pretty much sit here. This is where I spend most of my days. Can you demo your 3D printer when you set it up? Yes, I will. I might just leave it in the background, just doing stuff whenever I'm recording. So on a long video as I'm recording a course, I'll often just sit down and record, and that can just be whirring away in the background. But I'm not sure how noisy it is and whether this will be able to capture the sound without also the printer whirring away. Last time I checked, they can be quite loud. I can't remember how loud my one is, unfortunately. So it might just be too loud to record with. But yeah, I definitely want to show people about 3D printing. I went for a resin printer for the quality. The only thing I would say about that was that it can be a little bit messy, but I didn't realize at the time that you could leave the resin in the resin pool. You don't have to empty it every single time. And that was the thing that was really bugging me. But as long as you strain it out of all the bits, etc., you can keep it in the pool as long as it doesn't come in contact with sunlight. Not indefinitely, but between prints if you're printing every other day. Or something big and detailed. So the printer that I've got, I think it does about that size, about my head. No, it won't do my head. My head's big. But yeah, I've certainly set up like a web. I want to set up a webcam to watch it anyway, because prints with an SLA printer or a resin printer, they take the same time for each individual layer, which means that it matters how many layers your actual print has. Whereas a FDM printer, the ones with the plastic spools, they take as long as they've got material to deposit, and obviously the transit speed of the head across the plate and as it's building stuff up. So that's more about the amount of material you've got, whereas an SLA printer, it's just the individual layers as it's printing them. So if you've got 500 layers, it's going to take 500 layers worth of time, regardless of how much material is being cured. Of course, then you've got the messy stuff afterwards. So with an SLA printer, with the resin, you're supposed to clean it in isopropyl alcohol and then cure it. I didn't do that for the first couple. You want to, otherwise you get a very uneven surface as some of the resin is stuck to the material still after it's been cured. So yeah, I don't think the mirror actually helped. Oh, one thing you asked about setup. In terms of lighting at the moment, you probably noticed I haven't bothered using a green screen, and that was because it was such a pain in the backside to try and set up. And this desk wasn't originally here, and now it's kind of behind me. I can't put the green screen in there, so there's a practical thing about that. But lighting, I've actually got two hue lamps at the moment that I can change the color of. So one of them I've got to a light blue, and the other one is more of a yellow to give that amber and teal thing. And you probably see just at the top here we have a glow in the top of the screen. I should do that. It's over there. That's just to backlight me, and that separates me from whatever's in the background over there. So yeah. Any other questions? I'm just going to read my logs whilst go through that. Any Blender questions, just fire away. I'm happy to hang around and chat for a bit. That's also absolutely fine. So I'm gonna just have a look at these logs, because I'm interested in what caused me to lose internet. Oh, lots of errors. That was on March 5th, though. Oh, the log goes back quite a way. Yeah, I'm hopefully going to get new internet soon, which should be absolutely amazing. One of the issues with the internet that I've got at the moment is there are 7 people in our house, so everybody tends to leave at the moment. Almost everybody when I need to stream, because if all you need is a Netflix film or something like that in order to zap up all the bandwidth, and suddenly you get a jerky stream. We've had some of those issues in the past. I don't know what any of these errors mean, but there was a lot of failures. Restart firewall. I wonder what caused it to reboot. It'd been hilarious if it was like a firmware update. So yeah. So hopefully soon I'm going to go from 80 down and 20 up to 900 down and 450 up. We got a Blender question. It depends how you're doing your animations, Todd. So the question is, in Blender, do animations always need to be assigned to a fake user, or is there a better way? Have I got a project I can pull up that has animations in them? In short, yes, you should always make sure you protect your work. And I'm not sure in Blender 3.4 whether or not we have... I'm trying to think of the name. I'm just going through my drives at the moment as well to try and find Aria, because she's the one with a ton of animations. Just need to find out where I've stuck her. Is she in this folder? So yeah, fake users are one of those really, I suppose, annoying parts of Blender. I understand why they have them, but for a beginner, it can be quite hard to wrap your head around. Because if you don't assign something a fake user and then it's not assigned to an actual thing, you end up very quickly with it not working properly. I think I found her. Let's have a look. Does this have animations in it? It does. Excellent. So I'm just going to switch my screen. I've moved all my stuff after the end of the stream. Doop. There's a small head. Do we get to see the main screen? No. Okay. So you might remember Aria, who we'll be modeling at some point and animating. Under the animation workspace, I tend to use actions. Action editor. There we go. Now, do we have where's the NLA editor? They moved it. As I say, it's been a while since I've been in here. I think it was early Blender 3, non-linear animation. So I tend to do all of my animations in the non-linear editor these days. It means that it's much easier to make these animations. Is that the run loop? How do we trigger the run loop at the moment? But yes, having them in here is much easier than having them on a long line, which is traditionally like the older way of doing things. I use the NLA editor. Then you can export all of these individually, and obviously that's what we want in the game engine, for all of these to come through as discrete animations that can be picked. Otherwise, you end up in this horrible position where you've got to remember. It's fine as a solo developer. You go, oh well, this walk animation was from frame 0 to frame 20, and so forth. But if you're ever working in a team, all it takes is you to change that animation to be slightly longer or slightly shorter, and suddenly you have to update everybody as to where that animation is. And of course, with if you are just slicing up a really long, let's say 500 frame animation into different sections, if you change any of that, then you've got to change where those slicing points are, and that can cause a real headache. So yeah, I prefer the non-linear editor for sorting out my animations. In which case, I'm not sure if you need to give them a fake user or not. It's a good question, though. Just having a quick look through here. Lost it. Action editor. Non-linear. Yeah. I would say work through the non-linear workflow if... I think that's what NLA... Yeah. Oh, it's actually called non-linear animation. Yep. I'd work through that way of using animations in Blender rather than trying to... I switch back screen. Does that work? Will that switch me over? I'm just pressing buttons on my Stream Deck. Yes, it does still work. Yes, so I'd work in the non-linear editor and add your animations in here. unless you're well, I don't know. One of the good things about this editor as well is you can sort of morph between different animations, which is incredibly useful. So if you wanted your character to be running and then slow to a walk, then you could do that easily by blending between several different animations within this editor, which is incredibly powerful, as you can imagine. But that's more advanced animation than what we'll be covering in any beginner stuff. That's for sure. That was a bit of a long ramble. I apologize for that, but hopefully that answers your question there. Back to me. Yeah. Do we have any more questions? Roderick, neighborhood tour. Not at the moment. It's incredibly windy at the moment. We actually ended up with a branch that's gone into a summer house and broken. Well, it's broken off the tree. It's probably damaged the roof. We've also had guttering come loose. So, no, I'm not going outside at the moment. It's too windy. And trying to get me outside on a good day is bad enough. I'm afraid I'm very much I'm going to stay home. Yeah, no problem, Todd. Yeah, using actions and using the non-linear screen, that's a good way of just categorizing your animations, if nothing else. And I'll have to practice with this again. I've not had the time to go back into it since I was animating Aria. So yeah, and things have changed a little. There've been several big updates to Blender and its animations, and I can't tell you them all at the moment because it's not fresh in mind. It's one of the downsides of live streaming, isn't it? Live streaming? Yeah, this could be a live stream. Why not? Does anybody else have any questions? According to the stats here, there are 6 of you. Some people came back to watch me ramble on. Maybe someone's left. Don't leave. Well, actually, yeah, you can leave unless you've got any other questions. I will put a cap on how long I'm going to stay, though. Unless there's any other questions, I'm going to jet off in a couple of minutes. I'm just having a look down the chat here to see whether or not there are any other questions that I've missed. Yep, bring a mirror, done that. Demo of your 3D printer, whenever I get it set up. Hi, Mark. So that's who the new person was that joined. 3D printing, yep, neighborhood tour. Yeah, I'm not going to go around the neighborhood. I think it'd be a bit weird taking a camera out into the neighborhood as well. Yeah, a bit weird. So, yeah, I'm gonna call it there, guys. Thanks for hanging around for the after party. Whoop whoop. And yeah, I'll catch you next week. I don't know if we've got a specific topic next week, but check out the Discord and we'll let you guys know. And there's no press it from Jan, so I'm just gonna press it and say goodbye. Bye.